On June 15th, 2000, around 2 p.m., 8-year-old Kim Sung-ju vanished in front of her elementary school in Kyochon Village, Gangjin, South Cholla Province, South Korea. Almost exactly 1 year later, 6-year-old Kim Ha-eun disappeared near her school in Pyeongdong Village in the same province. Two missing girls, 1 year apart, and through years of investigation, one suspect would emerge from the shadows, a predator hiding in plain sight. This is the Gangjin Elementary School disappearance case. Kim Sung-ju had just turned 8. She was a shy girl who tried her best to interact with her peers, but she was closest to her older brother, her best friend, the person she loved most. Every day, they walked to and from Dong Elementary School together, hand in hand, smiling and singing all the way. They had a simple routine. Whoever finished class first would wait at the stationery store directly in front of the school gates, where they could easily spot each other coming through. On June 15th, Sungju's class was dismissed an hour early. There would be a field trip the next day. She looked over at her brother's classroom and realized only her grade had been let out, so she headed to the stationery store to wait. She settled onto the bench outside, swinging her legs and looking around for something interesting to pass the time. When her brother's class finally let out at 3 p.m., he rushed to their meeting spot, expecting to see his little sister waiting patiently as always. But she wasn't there. He searched the area, asking several students if they'd seen her. Nobody had. Thinking maybe she'd gone home without him, he ran back to find the house empty. His parents immediately went to the police station to file a missing person report. For her brother, this became his biggest regret in life. Police dispatched officers to search for leads around the school. They interviewed students, and fortunately, several students had seen Sungju that day. Between 2:30 and 2:50 p.m., about 30 minutes after dismissal, multiple kids on their way home clearly saw her sitting in front of the stationery store. But at 3:10 p.m., just 20 minutes later, a 4th grade student who knew Sungju spotted her in a very unexpected location, walking with 3 students way older than her. Based on their appearance, the friend thought the 3 boys were high schoolers. They were 500 meters from the school, heading toward the cattle market area, in the opposite direction from Sungju's home. And there were more witnesses. The next day, on June 16th, around 4:10 a.m., Sungju's father received a call from an unknown number. The moment he answered, the caller hung up. Sensing something might be linked to his daughter's disappearance, he immediately went outside and saw a black car rushing away from near his house. A neighbor later told him the driver had stopped earlier and asked about Dong Elementary School. Then, at 6 p.m. that same day, someone saw a girl eerily similar to Sungju at an accessory shop in the town center. The witness was absolutely certain it was her. They'd even exchanged greetings when crossing paths. This time, Sungju wasn't with 3 high schoolers. She was seen with 2 men who appeared to be in their 40s and 20s. Based on the witnesses' accounts, police made composite sketches to help with the search. The features were quite detailed and appeared menacing to many, but despite the detailed sketches and searching all over the village, nobody seemed to match those features. Even if they were outsiders, shouldn't at least someone have seen men with such distinct features roaming the village? Then another question emerged. What if the composite wasn't accurate? Police launched a massive search effort. They combed through the area around her home and school, searched nearby mountains, empty lots, abandoned buildings, and even checked surveillance cameras on 3 major roads in Gangjin, analyzing footage of 1,400 vehicles that passed through. They distributed flyers nationwide and visited child protection facilities across the country. But Sungju had seemingly vanished without a trace. And almost exactly 1 year later, on June 1st, 2001, 6-year-old Kim Ha-eun, a 1st grader at Jungang Elementary School in Pyeongdong, Gangjin, also disappeared. At 1:30 p.m., after she left school, Han walked with her classmate to a crosswalk near St. Joseph Girls High School entrance. Her friend, who lived right at the crossroads, went into his house, while Han crossed the street alone, heading toward the road that led home. A witness saw her cross the crosswalk without anything unusual, but she never made it home. Her house was about a 40-minute walk from school. The route was dangerous for a 6-year-old to travel alone, sparsely populated with scattered homes, requiring her to pass through a road with rice fields stretching out on both sides. When her parents reported her missing, police immediately suspected 2 possibilities: an accident on the way home where she was transported somewhere for medical care, or someone had kidnapped her during her journey. They conducted another massive search. Police questioned 721 students from St. Joseph Girls High School, which was holding a sports festival that day, hoping that someone had seen something. They searched through residents' homes along her route, abandoned buildings, greenhouses, and even traditional outdoor toilets. They found nothing. Then police noticed something that sent chills down their spines. This disappearance had occurred only 1.2 kilometers from where Kim Sung-ju had vanished almost exactly 1 year earlier. Both girls were elementary school students. Both disappeared on their way home from school in June. Both vanished during the afternoon hours between 1:30 and 2 p.m. And in both cases, there had been no ransom demands, no threats to the families, nothing. The victims simply evaporated into thin air. Were these 2 cases linked? Was the suspect the same person? And why commit the same crime in almost perfect timing with a 1-year difference? One mysterious tip arrived at a local newspaper. An anonymous woman posted on the newspaper's website claiming she had delivered Han to 2 men and that the child was being used for begging on the streets in Busan. She said guilt over her involvement drove her to confess. Police traced the post to a PC room in Suncheon, but they couldn't identify the woman. While child abductions for forced street begging were common at that time, this lead ultimately went nowhere. The cases grew cold. Years passed with agonizing silence. Then, in 2008, everything changed. After the horrific Anyang Elementary School abduction and murder case shocked South Korea, police across the nation launched a massive reinvestigation of long-term missing children cases. The Gangjin police formed a dedicated missing children task force and began their investigation from scratch, re-examining every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every potential lead. During this reinvestigation, one name emerged from the shadows, a man who'd actually been looked at by police in the mid-2000s, but had never been charged due to lack of concrete evidence. Let's call him Ma, and what investigators discovered about him painted a deeply disturbing picture. Ma had been found with videos of child sexual abuse in his possession. Police had already known about these videos from earlier investigations, but now they were taking a fresh, harder look at everything connected to him. Ma's ex-wife came forward with a horrifying story. She told police that years ago, while cleaning their home, she discovered videotapes. Thinking they were regular movies, she played one and was confronted with footage of her husband confining and sexually abusing a young girl. The child in the video looked disturbingly similar to one of the missing girls from the nearby area. Even more chilling, she recognized that the room in the video wasn't their home in Gangjin. It was Ma's separate apartment. And this discovery had actually led her to divorce him, and later, police would confirm the video showed a young girl who matched the description of Kim Ha-eun. When investigators repeatedly asked the ex-wife to describe the child in the video without showing her photos of the missing girls to avoid leading her testimony, her descriptions remained consistent. When they finally showed her Kim Ha-eun's photo, she confirmed that was the child in the video. Then came another breakthrough. A young man named Bin-soo, who attended the same elementary school where Ha-eun had studied, came forward with his own traumatic story. Minsu claimed that when he was in kindergarten, Ma had approached him while he was playing alone, offered him snacks, and lured him to an apartment where he sexually assaulted him while filming the abuse. According to Minsu, Ma had also shown him other videos featuring different children during the assault. Police were initially skeptical. Children's memories can be unreliable, and they needed to be certain. Minsu had to undergo several rigorous questioning sessions. In one crucial session, investigators asked him to describe the room where he was assaulted, without giving him any hints or showing him any photos. Minsu described the layout in precise detail, and it matched exactly with Ma's apartment, the same location Ma's ex-wife had identified as the background in the video, showing a child being abused. His memory was too accurate to be fabricated. With this testimony, police obtained warrants to search both Ma's apartment and his family home, and what they found was chilling. Video cameras, rope, a saw, and hairpins, all items that could be used for confinement and assault. With the newly found evidence and Minsu's detailed testimony, investigators finally had the momentum they'd been searching for. But there was a significant complication. By the time of the 2008 investigation, Ma was already behind bars. In 2002, he had murdered his ex-wife's brother during their bitter divorce proceedings and received a 15-year sentence. The murder had happened while his ex-wife was trying to leave him, likely related to her discovery of those horrifying videotapes. Police went to the prison to interrogate Ma. And at first, Ma denied every allegation, but under sustained questioning, he eventually broke down. Ma admitted to sexually assaulting young Minsu. Then he went further, making a shocking confession that stunned investigators. He claimed he had killed both Kim Sung-ju and Kim Ha-eun and had disposed of their bodies somewhere. Finally, after years of investigation, they had a confession. But then came the devastating setback. Ma suddenly retracted everything. He changed his story completely, now claiming he had only sexually harassed Minsu, a much lesser offense under the law, instead of the sexual assault he just confessed to. He completely denied any involvement in the girls' disappearances and murders. He refused to say another word, exercising his right to remain silent. And without physical evidence, no bodies, no murder weapons, no crime scene, and with a retracted confession, prosecutors couldn't move forward with murder charges. The court did acknowledge that Ma had abducted and lured Minsu, but because so many years had passed, the statute of limitations had expired. The result was a dismissal without any punishment for that crime. Despite all the circumstantial evidence pointing directly at Ma, the case remained officially unsolved. But the investigation had uncovered deeply troubling patterns that made Ma's involvement seem undeniable. Ma enlisted in the military in July 2000, just 1 month after Sungju's disappearance. And while serving, he asked family members who came to visit him to dispose of videotapes he owned, a clear attempt at destroying evidence. Then, a few months before Han disappeared in June 2001, Ma was medically discharged from the military due to psychiatric issues. He was experiencing hallucinations and hearing voices. After Sungju's disappearance, Ma had taken a trip and written cryptic memos to himself and acquaintances. The messages read, "If only people didn't know me, I wouldn't have committed any crime. If only I hadn't been born, I wouldn't have any guilt. Recent events have nothing to do with me, and I didn't confirm anything." Criminal psychology experts who analyzed these writings said the language showed someone attempting to rationalize their crimes. The first memo was ambiguous. It could refer to either the child sexual abuse or the disappearances. But the second memo, experts believe, likely referred specifically to Sungju's disappearance. The circumstantial evidence was overwhelming, but without concrete proof, Ma couldn't be charged with the murders. He continued serving his sentence for killing his ex-wife's brother, set to be released in 2017. Which means by now, he is already out. When people thought the case wouldn't see any further progress, something extraordinary happened in early 2019. A letter arrived at the Curious Story Why production team, a popular true crime television program. The writer was a man in his 40s who called himself Na. He was seeking help from the production team, claiming he'd been falsely accused of confining his intellectually disabled wife. According to him, he'd always loved his wife and would never do such a cruel thing to her. Her family had framed him because they wanted to control her disability benefits. But the wife's family told a very different story. They claimed Na had manipulated their intellectually disabled daughter, who was 5 years younger than him, into marriage, and then cut off all contact between her and her family. They reported his behavior to police. Their concern was specific. There's a monthly disability allowance that families with disabled members receive, and they believed Na had married their daughter specifically to steal that money. When the Curious Story Why production team started investigating Na's request for help, he was already charged with kidnapping and confinement. But as they dug deeper into this man's background, they discovered something that made them shift their investigation entirely. Years before, Na had been involved in a murder case. He killed his ex-wife's brother. And then the pieces fell into place. Na was the same person who'd been the prime suspect in the Kangjin missing children case years ago. Na was Ma. He had simply changed his name. So here's what actually happened. In 2002, Ma murdered his ex-wife's brother and received a 15-year sentence. He served his time and was released in 2017. Soon after his release, he met an intellectually disabled woman and married her specifically to exploit her disability benefits, repeating his pattern of targeting vulnerable people. And then came the absolutely absurd twist. This known predator, this murder convict, this prime suspect in 2 children's disappearances had the audacity to contact a true crime television program and ask them to investigate his claims of innocence. He was painting himself as the victim when he was the predator all along. Police in Seoul, who had been closely monitoring Na since his release as a known dangerous offender, arrested him on the charges involving his disabled wife. Then the Cheonnam Provincial Police, the team that had never given up on the Kangjin cases, arrived at his residence to conduct a search. And what they found was chilling. Hidden throughout Na's home was a 200-page notebook filled with what appeared to be complete gibberish, a complete cipher using 360 different symbols, mixed Korean consonants and vowels, numbers, and special characters. The writing looked completely unintelligible to anyone who found it. But the investigation team recognized this as potentially crucial evidence. They had a detective who'd been studying and deciphering similar codes since 2007. He took on the painstaking work of cracking Na's cipher, analyzing pattern after pattern, and finally, after persistent effort, he broke through. The decoded sentences were like reading the diary of a monster. Psychopath, pornographic filming production. I make the most docile, seize of my interest. Never be fooled. Use women for financial gain. I am most important. According to criminal psychologist Bae Sang-hoon, Na belonged to the most dangerous category of child sex offenders, specifically identified as high-risk content collector, someone who creates and archives material of their abuse. Even if Na was never definitively proven to be involved in this Hongju and Han disappearances, he was undoubtedly a serial predator who financially and sexually exploited vulnerable people, including intellectually disabled women like his wife and young boys like Min-soo. The notebook also contained extensive perverted thoughts about children and explicit desires to create child pornography. The most damning evidence came from Na's internet search history. After his release from prison in 2017, while he was supposedly trying to rebuild his life, Na had been frantically searching for statute of limitations calculations, Kim Song-ju, Kim Ah-eun, Kangjin Elementary student serial disappearance case. He was checking whether he could still be prosecuted. He was searching for the names of his alleged victims. Everything pointed directly at him. When the Curious Story Y team confronted Na with their findings and prepared to broadcast the episode exposing everything, Na demanded they halt the investigation and not air their findings. But who was he to command a broadcasting station, especially when they'd uncovered one of the biggest stories in years? They proceeded as planned. The episode aired, exposing Ma and Na as the prime suspect in one of South Korea's most heartbreaking unsolved cases. Police launched a renewed investigation with Na as the prime suspect. However, as of 2024, no arrest has been made for the murders of Song-ju and Ha-eun, though police continue to express a strong will to uncover the truth and bring justice to the families. So where are Kim Song-ju and Kim Ah-eun now? No trace of them has been found since the days they disappeared. If they were alive today, Song-ju would be 32 years old, and Ha-eun would be 30. Their families had clung to the thinnest thread of hope for over 2 decades. Song-ju's mother has kept everything exactly as it was the day her daughter left. Clothes that no longer fit folded in drawers. Second semester textbooks that were never opened, still wrapped in plastic. Letters from worried friends that remain sealed, waiting for Song-ju to come home and read them together. Every day, she opens Song-ju's bedroom, preserved exactly as her daughter left it. Every night, she waits at the front gate, hoping to see her little girl run home with that radiant smile, hand in hand with her brother, just like she used to. The case remains officially unsolved. The prime suspect's identity stays legally protected because there's been no prosecution for the murders. With his identity shielded and no guarantee he won't offend again, the man who almost certainly orchestrated the disappearance of 2 elementary school girls walks free somewhere in South Korea. Maybe he's someone you passed on the street. Maybe he's that quiet neighbor who smiles politely. Even with investigators coming this close to the truth, even with decades of evidence pointing in one direction, will justice ever be served? We can only hope so. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.